I think our press hounded him to death because he was, to speak to Wayman's point there, he worked for the narrative, which is anti-DEI, anti-woke, anti-black, let's be honest.
Following the tragic death of Professor Jason Arday, serious questions are being raised about how parts of the right-wing press covered him. Here, Wayman Bennett challenges what he sees as a glaring double standard before Marina Purkiss delivers a blistering response to the media coverage. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's watch.
We start off with the Mirror's terrible story. Thousands back appeal for tragic academic Jason. This is the former Cambridge professor found dead at an address in South London on Friday afternoon. Jason Arday resigned as a professor of sociology of education after allegations of plagiarism and questions about some of his achievements. He had denied the claims, and his family have since said the campaign of misinformation was simply too much for him to take. So let's speak to Wayman Bennett, who is from Stand Up to Racism. And Wayman, you're one of those organising a vigil tonight. Hello.
Good morning, Jeremy. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And once again, I want to send condolences and solidarity to the family of Jason for what they've suffered.
Tell me what's bringing together the people who are gathering tonight.
Firstly, the first thing is that we want Jason remembered for his extraordinary gifts that he had, but also we're quite angry about his treatment. We're angry about the treatment they received from Cambridge, but in particular, we're angry about a kind of witch hunt that took place in the press against him that portrayed him in the most negative light possible, and then basically wouldn't give him the breathing space both to exonerate himself and at the same time to present himself as a normal, decent human being. And we believe that if he wasn't black, if he wasn't a professor, that he wouldn't have been treated like this. And the forces that came against him, Hofsness, the person that made the original complaint, actually is a racial supremacist, is a man that believes in eugenics, that bumps in the head or the size of people's skulls determine how intelligent they are. And he was presented, not in the red tops as being an expert, but inside mainstream media as being that, and was never exposed that he himself is a fraud. And the research that he's based on is a fraud. He was presented as somebody making a normally reasonable complaint.
So I've got
that's a fault.
I mean, Nathan Kofnas was let go from Cambridge, dismissed, and you're right, has said some undoubtedly racist things. He's the one who wrote the initial Substack, though, that I did read at the time, which had this sort of passages from Mr. Arday against other passages that were the same. And he said that amounts to plagiarism. And that's where the whole thing started, now we look back.
Yeah, the first thing is that Liverpool University had said that he hadn't done plagiarism, which is a bona fide institution. And the second thing is that he reinforced it with the question of eugenics, that black people are genetically inferior, that women are genetically inferior. Now, what I want to know is why somebody who's so discredited that both the students and the body said that he wasn't fit to teach at Cambridge University is allowed to carry out a vendetta against a black person simply because they're black, not because he thought of intellectual or the question of pedagogical formula. He wanted to carry out a vendetta, and he was aided and abetted by some very serious people in the media, and we're going to hold them to account. Because we do not believe, look, there's 4 professors at Cambridge that are being done right now for sexual harassment. They've been held back, and for different reasons, I won't name them, but I'm happy to name them, and they've had none of that treatment. The correlation between them and Jason is that he's black.
What do you think, Marina?
I think our press hounded him to death because he was, to speak to Wayman's point there, he worked for the narrative, which is anti-DEI, anti-woke, anti-black, let's be honest. 188 articles on this man who is not a public figure over 9 days. That they just ceased to see him as a human. It was a blood sport for them. The Telegraph, the Times, the Spectator, disgusting. They have blood on their hands for this man. He is a human. They just thought clickbait was more important. The Times even had articles on Jason Arday where they was paid for advertising. And I just want to call out Julia Hartley-Brewer, you disgusting, vile woman, in my opinion, for what you posted on social yesterday, which says, she wrote, I'm pretty sure Jason Arday's huge book advance would be enough to cover his funeral costs. Give your money to a more deserving cause. What is wrong with you?
Not good.
What is wrong with you?
Bad. What do you think, though, James? Because you've written pieces on it.
I mean, full disclosure, I wrote a piece for The Spectator a couple of weeks ago about the whole saga, which I stand by, because what I was attacking specifically was not so much Jason Arday, but was the Metropolitan Police for having a 4-month-long investigation into a journalist from the Times Higher Education Supplement who emailed him for a right of reply. And in return, he was issued with a very threatening letter by lawyers called Carter Ruck, and there was a 4-month-long police investigation, which I think is pretty disgraceful. And yes, Nathan Kofnas is a despicable character, but there was a story here that needed investigating, and this is a terrible tragedy, but I think we would be compounding it if we said that it is not the role of the press to look into allegations of plagiarism.
It's about
let's just bring
about proportionality. It was incredibly disproportionate. I was on holiday. I was not in the news. I'm getting push notifications about Jason Arday constantly. I'm going, who the hell is this person? Is this a public figure that I don't know about? No, it's a black professor.
Yeah, Wayman, it's awful when these things become culture wars, and it seems as if we're going to try to clarify the two sides here. One side says that he was protected because he was black against criticism, and the other side say that he was persecuted because he was black. And we now see, actually, this war between the two sides is getting even worse.
The premise that was put forward is that black people and women, or people LGBT, are not intellectually capable of doing the job. And that was backed up by people in serious positions. And to be honest with you, if Boris Johnson, when he made those enormous lies, had been subject to even 10% of this, or when we look at the Epstein files, when the carpets rolled out to the President of the United States and no questions are answered. On this program, any of this program, no one put these questions to him. If that was the same, if we talk about equality, then that's what would have been done. That's not what's been done. And the reason why it's not been...
Sorry, Wayne, I was going to say, just tell us where you're all meeting tonight.
We are 6 o'clock. We're meeting in Trafalgar Square. It's going to be a dignified event. Please come down and support us. Please come down and support the family. And we have to remember at the heart of this, a young man lost his life because we want to see all our children achieve and succeed at the highest level. And we want diversity, equality, and inclusion. These should be the watchwords of education, not racism, division, and hatred.
So, there you have it. Whatever your view of the original allegations, Marina Purkiss and Wayman Bennett raised a serious question about proportionality. When one individual becomes the subject of relentless national coverage, legitimate scrutiny can quickly turn into something far more damaging. And Julia Hartley-Brewer's post, following Professor Jason Arday's death, only added another deeply controversial moment to an already troubling story. Our condolences go to Professor Arday's family and friends. What did you make of the media coverage and Marina's response? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more political commentary. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.